Okay, so again, official welcome to everybody. Welcome to all of our community language schools teachers. Now, a quick introduction to our esteemed guest. It's Dr. Katina Zammit, who is the Deputy Dean and Senior Lecturer in the School of Education at Western Sydney University. Her research interests include pedagogy for students living in poverty, semiotics of multimodal text, and understanding literate practices of culturally and linguistically diverse students and adults. Katina has been a co-chief investigator on Schooling for a Fair Go, Exemplary Teachers for a Fair Go, and Defying the Odds, promoting success for refugee background students in higher education. She publishes in peer-reviewed journals and chapters, such as the International Journal of Intercultural Relations. Okay, everybody, if we can then keep your microphones off, I'd like to welcome Katina. Over to you, Katina. Welcome.
Hi, thanks very much for that introduction, Alex. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners upon which we are meeting today and thank them for their custodianship of the lands for all the thousands of years, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and future, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person with us today. So Alex has given me a bit of an introduction here, and I just wanted to say hi to everyone. Some people may recognize my name. Katina is Greek, so my heritage is actually Greek, and my husband is Maltese as well. I noticed that there is somebody from San Spiridon, so that's really nice. I remember actually Greek school, but that was at Kogarah, at the church in Kogarah as well, so that I sort of know what it's like from a student's perspective, at least, if not from an educator's perspective, from the teaching's perspective as well. And I was probably one of those pretty disruptive students in the classroom as well, and maybe didn't listen as well as I should have at times. My education background is that I'm a primary teacher by trade, and worked in sort of the inner city areas of Sydney as well. So that's me. So we're going to do a few things today, and obviously I'll share my screen to begin with, but you'll have to be a little patient when we step out and do some other things, and I ask you to do some quizzes and such as well. All right, so let's get started. Okay. And of course, this presentation will be made available to you all as well. So today we're going to be talking about classroom management, and hopefully by the end of this very brief session together, you'll have an opportunity to reflect on your own classroom management techniques, and in other words, what works, what doesn't work, share, identify some different classroom management strategies that you might be able to have a go at and try out. So that in regards to what you're doing tonight is adding to your actual classroom management what I would call repertoire of practice. So what it is and sort of the tips and tools of classroom management as well. So to begin with, I just want to give a bit of a background to the classroom area of classroom management. Now, there are many views and tips about classroom management. If you search on YouTube or if you search on the internet, there's a huge range of views and perspectives. The same goes for the research literature on it. It's a very complex area, and the educators have very similar ideas about what seems to work in classrooms to manage student behaviour and to manage the movement of students and movement between one part of a lesson to the next, but they are also contradictory ideas. I know from experience that one idea or strategy can work one week, and the next week when you think, fantastic, I'm going to try that again, it's not as effective. What works for one student may not work for another student. So while there are ideas that I'm going to be presenting to you today, there is no one correct way to actually manage a class. And you have to find what it is that works for you and works for the children that you have in your classroom as well. And because they come from such diverse backgrounds, that's not going to be easy as well. So to begin with, what I'd like you to do, and I know we all know what QR codes are, is if you could actually go to this QR code. So put your phone up to the QR code, or you can go to menti.com and choose. Now you can choose more than one. There are 6 images here. So in regards to your management style, which ones reflect what happens in your classroom? So here they are. Actually, is that the right one? Hang on, it's nothing like trying something new, guys. Okay, where is there it is. Okay, so that's what's happening. A lot of people can associate with the teacher sitting with a group of students around the table, sharing ideas around a table. And the teacher out the front with the students in individual desks is the other one that seems to be quite popular. As well as sitting with the students. All right, guys, thanks very much for that. All right, so quite interactive approach to actually working with children and working with your class. All right, and I'll leave that for the moment. There we are. So many of you can identify working closely with the students in group situations, as well as talking it to individual students on a one-to-one basis. Some of you also recognize the fact that you actually have classrooms where you're up the front and the students are in individual desks. They're not working in groups as well. So that's each of those will represent a different way of managing the classroom environment, because layout and setting is also very, very important. You remember who sits next to each other can actually impact on the learning that's going on in the classroom and the sorts of behaviours that students are engaged in as well. All right, so what is your view of classroom management? Here's another QR code, please. This time you can either put it into the chat if you want to, or you can use the QR code and you can enter 3 words that you associate with the idea or the area of classroom management, how you might define it. Let's see what people are thinking. Okay. I think I could get this one right. Okay. See what's happening with this one. Ah, here comes some of the words people are using. Chaotic, intense, firm but fair, involve the children. Good. Reward and praise, rapport, empathy, nice. Respect, interesting, good. communicative, active. Some of these are fantastic ideas, everybody, and you can keep adding to those if you wish to during the presentation and the session today, and we can see what people have at the end as well. All right, if they've got similar sorts of ideas also. So some of those are very, very important areas, and we will be looking at a few of those tonight in regards to developing your strategies that you can use in the classroom as well. All right, so when we look at classroom management strategies, there are two types of management strategies we can classify them into. We can call that we have preventative strategies and we have responsive strategies. Now, preventative strategies are those strategies that some of you have already mentioned in the word cloud, okay? Building up those positive classroom environments, ensuring that students feel happy where they are, you know, that they know that you care about them, so you are knowledgeable about the kids. And there is that community of learners. Of course, many of you will actually have connections with the families in the community as well, and have a very good sense of who the children are who are coming into your lessons for the community language. And because you're coming from an actual community background, there is that sense of a community of learners. Of course, not all students want to be in there, but we have to focus on the learning, what it is that they're doing. So looking at the notion of instruction, the sorts of engaging activities that you are introducing to the students is a preventative strategies. In other words, if they enjoy, are they actively involved in what they're learning as they are learning the language, the targeted language, then that focus on learning tends to shift the students' focus away from actually, you know, their behaviour as well. And so while it doesn't get rid of all challenging behaviour, it does actually reduce it. It's also important that, in fact, you avoid that notion of public punitives or public shaming. The image that you had at the beginning with the teacher going like this to the student, going, you know, bringing them out the front and ripping shreds off them, is not a very good way to manage the classroom, because you are then managing through fear, and fear does not work for very long. It also means that you have a more disruptive sort of classroom, because you're butting heads with the students all the time. So that to make it engaging, then you have to consider the levels of the students in your class. Obviously, you're going to have students that are, if you're in a beginner's class, that have a range of ages as well. They may not all be at the same age and at the same, you know, level at the same time. So how can you change that sort of learning for them and differentiate it? And I know you're going to be looking at that at another time. Rules, procedures, and routines are really, really important. And we're going to focus on looking at some of those tonight as well, and making sure those routines are set. It's also preventative in terms of pre-corrections. In other words, telling students, if this happens, if this is what's going on, this is what's going to happen, and having those sorts of signals. And it's also active supervision. No longer is it a place where you actually sit at the teacher's desk, give the kids something after you've given the students something to do or an activity to work on and sit down. It's getting out there, as those first couple of images that we had in that first activity, as engaging them in that sort of learning and making sure that they are understanding where they're at to as well. One of the things that I found quite useful is actually considering on and off learning behaviours. So you have a chart, okay, what is it? What's on behaviour? So what does it look like? And getting kids to actually help you to list those. What does it sound like? And what does it involve? So what sort of behaviours as well? And then having them look at what's the off behaviour. And then simply afterwards is when anything's happening, you can refer to that chart and you can talk to the students and say, is your behaviour on or is it off? If it's not on, Well, what can we do to actually, you know, make it on, okay? And in listening to the students in that respect as well. The other types of strategies are the responsive strategies. And these, I think, is what we tend to do more often because it's immediate. It's what's happening to me in the classroom at this point. So it's correcting inappropriate behaviors, meaning, you know, if something is serious, all right, and inappropriate, engage immediately. Don't wait and think, oh, you know, it'll all work out, all right? Use attention-getting techniques, and we'll have a look at some of those tonight as well. It's another way of actually responding to inappropriate behavior and responding proportionately to the level of behavior is simply being quiet, saying nothing and waiting. And believe you me, that is one of the hardest things for teachers, is to actually just be quiet and wait. The other thing that is very effective is using your voice, so that if you are talking to a student who is displaying inappropriate behavior, that you try to remain calm and your voice is calm, and you talk to them in a simple, straightforward way. I don't think that what you're doing at the moment is helping everybody else in the classroom learn. I think that you need to think about what is it that you need to do to make yourself back on task and help everybody else. Of course, the higher you go, if you start at screaming, it's not going to be very effective for you, nor for the students as well. And you can actually respond and focus students then on those class negotiated rules, on what is the on behavior and impact on others' learning as well. It's not easy to remain calm. So you also need to consider, well, which battles are you going to really focus on, and which battles, you know, are not really worth it. For example, I had one experience in the classroom, a teacher that I knew of, who spent 15 minutes of the classroom trying to get a child to take their hat off. Now, I don't know if that's such a really good use of picking your battles, nor is it actually going to be terribly appropriate for the context of learning for everybody else. And remember, you never make it personal. Try to take the behavior is the problem or needs correcting or readdressing. It's not the child, it's the behavior, not the actual child as well. So I try to talk about using the Casper approach. Calm, see? Appear calm, even if you don't feel it. Take a breath, stop to think, count to 10 just before you actually react in any way. Try to be assertive, so you still are the authority in the room, all right, and you are in charge. Reprimand the students in private, so maintain that status for them as well, and be E for empathetic. Try to imagine how the pupil is feeling. You don't know what's happened before they've come into class as well. And always try to show respect to students as well. So let's have a look at particular strategies. All right. I hope you'll be able to hear this. Just move you down.
Let's get started. Classroom management is such a huge part in our schools and our classrooms all across the world. And it is very crucial that we have good classroom management so that we...
Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is I would like you to actually take note of Miss May and what procedures and routines that she's recommending and how she ensures the students know what those routines are. All right, so what routines And how does she ensure them?
We can prepare our students for the future so that our content can be taught and not be interrupted by too many behaviors. So my first tip today is all about procedures and routines. It is so crucial and so important that you have procedures in place and constantly doing that. Many of you are probably wondering, what do you mean by procedures? So what I mean by procedures is, what is it that you want your students to do when something happens and you can't attend to it, or when a problem arises? You gotta have solutions quickly for the students so they know what to do. You can teach a small group, you can confer with students, and so it's important that you have these procedures in place. Now, I will tell you, every single summer, since my very first year of teaching, I take a day where I just make a list of all the procedures that I need in my classroom. You need a lot of them, because procedures help for a smooth, running, flowy classroom, and that's what you want. Sorry guys, if you can't tell, but I'm kind of losing my voice. But anyway, so I'm going to give you some examples of some procedures. So one procedure many teachers have. Okay, so an example of a procedure would be, if they're working independently at their seats or wherever in the room and their pencil breaks, what do? So, back in the day, kids would raise their hand, you would call on them, my pencil's broke, you go sharpen it for them, or they would sharpen it themselves. Well, that's a distraction. Nobody has time for that, because if you're teaching a small group, you know, it may be a while before you look up out into your classroom to see what's going on, to be able to call on that student. So I have a procedure for pencils. So for example, here's my supply bin. Okay, I did a video on this. I'll put a link in the description box as well for this. But the procedure is, if my kids are working and their pencil breaks, they know to put their broken pencil in the broken bin, and then they come to the unbroken and they get a fresh one and they go to their seat. Simple. They're not asking Miss May anything. They're not asking a neighbor anything. They just get up and go do it. Another procedure would be, if a student doesn't have a certain color crayon, let's say for instance, blue or purple or green in their pencil box, then they go to the community supplies located in our classroom. And if they need a blue, they come and get a blue. I put blue crayons in here and blue markers. All in one place, they grab and go. Now, back in the day, I used to pour all the crayons in one bin and all the markers in another bin. Well, the problem with that is you get kids who want to stand there and act like they're looking for a color, and they're wasting their time.
I'm not sure what's going on.
So this way, it's very quick and simple and easy. Boom, they grab it, use it, bring it back. So that's what I mean by procedure.
I love it. You got to teach those things to your students so that they know what to do. There's procedures on how you want your kids to come into your classroom every single morning. From the beginning of the year, for a good, solid, strong month and a half, I teach these procedures constantly. And anytime a student may not be doing something correctly, we go back and revisit it. When I say procedures, that means anything from how they transition into your classroom, how they leave to go home. I play music for almost every transition that I have. That's a procedure. When my students hear a certain song, they know we have a song for clean up, find your learning spot. Clean up, meet me in the movie area. Clean up, it's the end of the day. I have different songs for everything. There's a song for when they come in the morning to get them up, ready to go and happy. I have songs that I play during reading time, during math group time.
use music to transition. There's so much good music on there, and my students, they love Kids Bop. So definitely use different songs to transition different situations. Those are just procedures that you teach your students, and you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. You can't do it one day and then not do it for 2 days and then do it again and then not do it for another day. There's no way you're going to have consistency with your students. It's going to be chaos, and who in the world wants chaos in their classroom? No, nobody has time for that. So I'm going to teach you, I'm going to show you how I teach my students at the beginning of the year. Now, you can do this anytime, because sometimes we find procedures that we use or management styles that we use, and they don't work for us. And so you have to find that procedure that truly, truly works for you. And until you do, you just keep trying. But always, when you start a new procedure or teach something new to them, make sure you follow up with the anchor chart. So I'm going to show you how I teach my students. So here's my anchor chart, and anchor what they're thinking on here so that you can refer back to it when you go to reteach it. They have a visual. So I love to make anchor charts. Shout out to, I love to use Mr. Sketch markers because they smell good as you're creating them, but I always use Mr. Sketch for my mark. Well, not always, but I use Mr. Sketch most of the time. I'm just going to teach you what I do. So it goes a little something like this. Boys and girls, I'm so excited to teach you this procedure that's going to take place in our classroom this year. It's all about when you need to go to the bathroom or you need a drink of water. Now, as you know, I showed you where our water bottles go during the day in case you need to go and take a drink of water. But sometimes we forget our water bottles. So sometimes you may need to get up and you may need to go to the restroom and go get a drink of water. So I'm going to teach you this procedure on how to use the restroom without raising your hand and asking Miss May. Miss May has this jar here. I have this jar here. Now this jar has a girl's pass and a boy's pass. Now, I'm going to teach you what you're going to do when you need to go to the restroom. You're not going to sit there if you have to use the restroom and raise your hands, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to get the pass, you're going to put it on your desk, you're going to walk out, you're going to come back in, and then you're going to put it back in the correct spot where it belongs, back in here. So Miss May's going to show you what it looks like and what it sounds like when you need to go to the restroom. Now, the only thing Miss May asks is that you do not go to the restroom when Miss May is teaching. If Miss May is teaching, I need you here to be listening because it's important that you're learning from Miss May. Now, if it's an emergency, Miss May totally understands. If it's an emergency, I understand. But most of the time, we really don't have a true emergency every single day. But sometimes we have an emergency. You give me that look, and here's the look. If you need to go to the restroom, here's the look, and it's an emergency, and Miss May's teaching. Did you see Miss May? So I looked up. My eyes are big, and I'm shaking like this. That lets me know that you need to go to the restroom. You can't hold it. And I'm just going to nod like that so that you can go. I'm not teaching. You are free to go whenever you would like. So Miss May is going to show you what it's like and what it sounds like when you need to go to the restroom. Here we go.
All right, so there's Miss May's, how she organises, how she develops those sorts of procedures. Alex, would you be able to, in a couple of minutes, actually, I'm going to ask people to go into breakout rooms. So I'm just going to let you know. All right.
Sure.
So that what we are going to ask you now to do in your breakout room is to discuss routines you use in the classroom. Share it. Okay. What sort of routines have you set out for them at your children at the beginning, moving from one activity to the next, and how effective are they, do you think, for managing the classroom behaviour? And what would you like to improve, or how you could improve the routines as well? So Alex, 10 minutes for people to go and discuss their current strategies. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, just everybody, if you could please have a look at the messages that are coming up. Could you please join that room? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. This is a perfect opportunity for you to exchange some really good ideas, because we've all got some great experience and some great ideas to share. So go ahead and join those rooms, please. We can see who's not joining. Well, I can. But please go ahead and do so. If you've got any questions, put it in the chat. You can either send a message to Katina, or if you need, even to me.
Mm-hmm. This is how, so students know. There's a lot of welcoming activities. So that's, on entry. So routines are being set up in the classroom, particularly around the use of the language, or a non-verbal gesture of some sort that is relevant to the individual each of the cultures as well. So that was really nice. The other comment that somebody made, I think is worthwhile, is looking at the notion of translanguaging. Okay, so do you use the language, or the community language, or are you going to use English at which time? And if you are going to use the community language and they are not familiar as you would like them to be with the phrases, then it's that route. It's what Miss May in the video was saying. You have to reinforce it. This is what I mean. Let's practice it. I'm going to say this. This is what I want to see you do. Okay. I'm going to say this. This is what I want to see you do. All right. So that we have that sort of aspect going on with them as well. All right. And Jasmine, that's a great idea, using the two languages, so you can actually use both, so that you are using both English and the target language of the community as well, so that you can actually, you're making those sorts of connections as well to students, so that they feel included in the classroom as well. So it's really is, because that notion of building up their communicative capacities is very important as well. So let's move on. And I'm thinking I probably won't share the next video, actually. Now, Miss May also uses the responsive attention-getting techniques as well. And some people have already mentioned some of those particular techniques that they have been using in their classrooms as well. So one of the things that I'd like you to break into a group now as well is to think about, okay, what sort of attention-getting techniques? Now, a number of you are using these as responsive, as well as the routines. Now, I think, Janaki, you recall actually having music being played in the lesson and how effective that was. Okay, so do you use music? Okay, what is an attention-seeking? It's not attention-seeking, sorry. A response in terms of attention-getting. All right, is it a countdown? Do you count? Say, I'm going to count down from 10, because that, if you count down from 10 or from 5, and you can use the language, and when I get to 0, everybody has to have stopped and be looking at me. All right. Or everybody needs to be sitting down, or everybody needs to be doing whatever it is that you are wanting them to do in terms of their behavior in the classroom. But by counting down, you are warning the students as well. So they are stopping what they're doing and getting ready to, finishing off what they've done or doing, and getting ready to move on to the next activity as well. Some people use clapping routines. So if I go and the children repeat it. Sana, actually, she uses Arabic, and I can't remember what the word is now, but it's to do with waterfall, and it has a sh sound in it. And so when she says that word, then the children come back with sh, sh, sh. So there is a response, okay? So teacher initiates, the children respond. Again, it gets their attention and sets up that sort of a routine in the classroom as well. Some people use, you know, heads, shoulders, follow me. And again, if you just keep doing it and you don't say anything, eventually all the children will join in. And then you've got their attention and you've managed that transition as well between areas. And there is, I know, teachers who use bells or chimes as well within their classroom. So what I'd like you to now do, thanks, Alex, is to pop into a room for about 5 to 6, about 6-7 minutes. Is that okay, Alex?
Sure.
And talk about those attention responses. Okay, how do you gain the children's attention that doesn't include you raising your voice?
Ready?
Or pointing fingers. Thanks very much.
Okay, here we go. Don't forget to join, people. I'm watching, don't forget. Okay.
As well, and thank you for those people who've contributed their ideas in the chat as well. So there is some really interesting sharing going on here, so that what I've got is some really nice ones in terms of somebody uses a little dinner bell that Shinazana actually sets those rules up at the beginning of the year, so that she's got those to follow, and when anything happens you can refer to them. Are you following the rule? Do you know, is this how we are supposed to be behaving in the classroom? What does it say? What's rule number whatever? Number 3, ready, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. That's a good one in English and in the home language as well. And I think that that's quite a useful thing to do, is using the both languages, that translanguaging aspect, so that you have, you know, they are making that connection to the community language as well. Hands up, hands down, eyes on me. That's another one. I like the idea of dancing. I do think sometimes getting kids' attention in a physical way is that you might put some music on and they know that they can get up and, you know, rock around for a little bit, and then they are, you know, when it finishes, the music finishes, we sit down and we're ready to go again. All right. So some of those physical activities are also good for that sort of attention getting. And at the end there, we start to talk about reward systems. All right. So a number of people would find reward systems work. So you give out, you know, to those who are working well, who are, you know, you make a point of actually saying, you answered that really well. I really like the way you're sitting, you've behaved well, etc. You know, whatever it is you're wanting you to actually reinforce, and you give them a little token or a sticker or a stamp in some way, and they may collect those. Some of them, one of the people in the last room was actually saying, you know, after a few weeks, then, you know, the one with the most tokens, stickers, warm fuzzies, gets to choose something out, you know, a surprise out of a box, you know, pencil or rubber or something like that. And so that motivates them to want to get those tokens, and to then, you know, obviously behave in the classroom, and hence you can manage the interactions and the types of behavior that's going on in your actual classroom as well. Ooh, my goodness, it's 8 o'clock. All right then, well, that's gone really quickly. Thank you very much. I hope you've increased your repertoire of classroom management strategies and tools. So I'll hand it back to Alex, and thanks very much for coming tonight.
That was amazing. Katina, thank you so much. Could we all just show our appreciation just in the chat? If you feel like saying thank you, go ahead. It was a really great session, Katina. Thanks so much. Great ideas, great ideas. For everybody who's still there, don't log off yet. I've been posting some material. Katina, you're free to go. You can go and have some dinner now, but thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very
Thanks
much, everybody.
That was excellent.
Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Thank you,
for the rest of you.
Thank
For the rest of you,
Thank
UK,
you.
yes. Thank you, everyone.
so much.
There's some information which I'm just going to give you just one more time. It's about the third time. Remember, you can get a certificate for this course, but you need to attend the sessions. Okay, so I've got a form which is in the links that I have sent. Copy those. And there's a lot of information. We've got some more sessions happening next week. Next week, we've got another special guest. And it's a very special guest. I mean, they're all very special, but this one here in particular. Next week, we've got Dr. Chris Jones Diaz. Chris was one of you. Chris ran a community language school up until last year. She had to stop. She's inundated with a lot of work, so she's just giving that a break. But she has had a school. She had a school for many, many years, so she's got a lot of experience to share with you. She's also a lecturer at Western Sydney University, and she's going to be talking about teaching diverse learners. There's a lot of research that she's done. She's published a lot of material, so she'd like to share that with us. And we're very fortunate to have her. So next week, sorry, not next week, the 19th of April, please remember, 19th of April, yes, 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 you meant 19th of April. So we're having a bit of a break, and we'll be back for a couple more sessions, all right? Don't forget, Wednesday, this Wednesday, we've got an international guest speaker, somebody who has written many, many books. I've got some of his books on my bookshelf in front of me, my other bookshelf. Scott Thornbury, we had him last year, great feedback. We're having him back this year on Wednesday. So Wednesday, 7 p.m, everybody, tune in, tune in, tune in, okay? I've given you the details. Everything's free, the Edidio learning management system. Email me, have a look at the what I've sent you, and we shall see you next 19th April or on Wednesday for the international masterclass. Everybody, good night.
Excuse me, Alex. Can I have the...
Good night.
Thank you very much. I'm still recording. Just bear with me. There we go.